welcome to another edition of Health Solutions with Shawn and Janet Needham, where Team Needham discusses everything healthcare. I am your host, Shawn Needham, along with my wonderful wife, Janet, and our producer, Lindsay, in the studio at AM 1470 KBSN in Moses Lake. And we are also streaming live on my personal Facebook page and the Moses Lake Professional Pharmacy's YouTube site. Hope you all had a safe holiday 4th of July weekend. It was epic in many places, lots of big fireworks shows. I love it. I love celebrating our country's birthday, 244 years of freedom, independence. I love it. Let's keep celebrating freedom. Today, so popular, we have David Mykel back on the phone, or back on the line with Psychology Fitness. My wife loved interviewing him and had so many more questions for him. She wanted to have him back. So, David, are you with us?
I am, Shawn. Great to be back. And Janet, thank you for your curiosity of wanting me back.
Oh, you're welcome.
So let's go ahead, David, and go in kind of where we, just sum up what we did a few weeks ago with the brain, body, breath, and the 4 Ps. If you could go through those, and then Janet has some more specific questions for you.
Yeah. So Psychology Fitness is all about it. We created this clinically proven program that we train the brain, the body, and the breath to help you look, feel, and perform better. And we've actually verified it, validated it with over 98% efficacy rate, with over 1,000 people now to come to the program. And so what our contention is, we call our B3 methodology. So our brain, our body, our breath. We call on these 3 things at a high level, to perform at a high level all day, every day, yet we train them completely independently. Our brain, we go to school, we sit in front of computers, we take webinars, we read books, and we're sedentary most of the time. Our body, we go to the gym, we usually want to forget about our day, so our brain usually tunes out, and our breath, it's involuntary, so we typically don't even think about it. So my contention is, how can you possibly ask 3 things to perform at a high level together if you train them separately? And so that's what we created, what I call our Psy-Fit system. Same as short for Psychology Fitness, where we engage the 4 Ps. The first is we take on your biggest frustration or problem. We then activate your physiology in order to change your psychology from a neuroscience perspective, so literally from the inside out. And because of that, the 4th P has to happen, which means your perspective changes from now going this tunnel, narrow, fight or flight driven vision to huge 180 view. You can see your solution. And be empowered to take that step into the solution to solve that biggest frustration or problem in 45 minutes or less.
That sounds so impressive. So I was really caught up in the excitement of your program. And one of the things that I have just embraced is the fact that we do need to incorporate all those things, all 3 of those things, to actually make change, because I feel like there's so many people out there that have a wake-up call, whether it be emotionally, mentally, or physically, and somewhere along the line they fail, or they feel like they can't overcome the journey that they need to get to be healthy. And quite frankly, our focus in the past months has really been on helping people get through some of those issues. And one of that lays heavily on my heart, and I know yours too as well, Dave, is that we have a country who is embraced and not totally, but we know it's not true, that we need to deal with the weight problem in our country just because of the cardiovascular, but also the emotional and the mental side effects of this. And last week we had a wonderful person that came on and was able to share his journey of what needs to happen for him to have a weight loss. But one of the things he said to us was, he wanted to be able to live. He wanted to be able to get out of his house and actually live. So one thing that hits me really hard is, once they've had that wake-up call, how do they get past their fear?
Yeah, so this is where 100%, and you have to have a coach of some sort in your life. If you are serious about your life, you need people that are further along, that know more than you, to step into your space and help you out. I'm a huge proponent of this. Like I say, coaches, even coaches need coaches. I'm a professional coach. I have coaches that I work with every single week that help me. So my first piece of advice, hands down, no matter what your budget is, you can find someone that can coach you, someone that can start spilling information into your life, someone that can sit there. I did it with a client earlier today that can offer a solution that's right in front of their face, but you can't see it because you have this myopic vision, either because you're fight or flight driven or because you don't know any better because your perspective has been shrunk because of the world that you've lived in for 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years. So yeah, first step is get some advice, get a coach, but again, be careful, because there's a lot of people out there that don't have your best interest in heart. They just want to make money. They call themselves coaches because they took a weekend seminar and all of a sudden they're a life coach. They took one nutrition certification and all of a sudden they can tell you everything to eat. Like anyone who tells you they have it all figured out, run as far away from possible as from them, because if I've learned anything in my career is the more that I know, the more that I learn, the more I know nothing, and I need to learn so much more. So I would say, yeah, Janet, the first thing would be is just find a coach. You need someone to help you along the journey. And again, it doesn't matter what your budget is. You can find someone. But and I said this to another client today. I was like, if you don't have your health, you have nothing else.
So, what kind of program? I know yours addresses this, but what kind of program is going to? What are the pitfalls besides you say run? But we have to really deal with that psychological thing, because I feel like one of the things I hear repetitively with some of the people that we've dealt with is that they feel like, what's the point? I've already lived this many years in my life, and how do they get past that? And how do we psychologically say, I'm no longer going to live in this fear. I'm not going to shame myself anymore. I'm going to make this challenge, and I'm going to defeat this emotion or this replay button.
Yeah, Janet, so there's so much to unpack in what you said there. There's just so much truth in there. A lot of stuff that people are going to deal with are like justifiable fears. Fear of failure. Like one of the clients I spoke to earlier today, same thing. He's been on an on and off journey of weight loss, 20 pounds on, 20 pounds off for decades. And now we've been working together for about 4 months. He's kept the weight off. He's in a completely different place, but it's because he's using different tactics, right? This is one thing I love to teach as a psychologist, is tools and tactics. Because you can't use the same tools that you created the problem with. You have these old tools that created this old problem that you need new tools to solve the problem with. Otherwise, you will keep repeating the same thing over and over and over again. This is why I say it's helpful. And I'm not even promoting my services. I'm promoting coaches in general. Good coaches are on the cusp of all the good, newest research, newest technology, newest things to help you figure out. And a coach's job is to have perspective, to look at your life and see things that you can't see and offer solutions for that. Because and this is funny, I don't believe in coincidences anymore. I literally coached my team on this morning, and I'll give you the PG version of this little phrase, but I say F your feelings. F your feelings. Why? Because your feelings will lie to you over and over and over and over again. I don't feel like taking this on. I don't feel like I can do this. I don't feel like that makes a difference. I don't feel like there's going to be any light at the end of the tunnel. I already came this way. I don't feel like changing. Like, you need someone to call you out on your feelings, but you need to also be cognizant of your feelings. And this is why I say, for me, you can't change your brain without changing your body, and you can't change your body without changing your brain. There's no way. How do I know this is probable? How do I know this is not even probable? It's true. Is that, and this is why I created this psychology fitness. What I'm saying, the revolution, is because the psychology industry has been treating the brain and brain only for decades. Now, it's great and it works, and I believe in cognitive behavioral therapy. I'm subscribing to it. One of my mentors is a therapist. I've gone to therapy a lot. But if it worked so well that we wouldn't have people dealing with the same problems for 5, 10, 15 years. Why? They're trying to change their brain without changing their body. The same is true when you reverse it. We have 71% of people fail at their New Year's resolution that's built around wellness, going to the gym. Why? They're trying to change their brain without changing, or trying to change their body without changing their brain. You're trying to use a tool to change the wrong thing. It's like going to try and change a tire with a hammer. You need more than you can't use a hammer to change a tire. You need more tools to change what you're actually trying to do, and the tools that you have in your toolbox now don't work. So I think it's a realization of that you have to bring on new tools. You have to bring on a coach of some sort. You have to bring on, new knowledge of what's going on. And the biggest thing, and this is where I say, for me, there's a reason why I called it psychology fitness, not fitness psychology. It's a psychology-first approach. There is no other approach. Trust me, if there was, it would have worked, and someone would have patented it by now. It doesn't work. If your brain isn't trained first, if your brain isn't changed first, your body has no hope, because you will run out of discipline, you will run out of focus, you'll run out of motivation. Every person talks about this, and if they're saying that's not true, those are the ones that you run as far away from as possible.
So that's a good point, David, and thank you for being back on again. I really was looking forward to another show with you. So give an example of how you can't, I forgot how you worded it, but how you can't change yourself with the same habits that you were doing before. Will you explain, how did you reword that and go into an example of what you mean by that?
Okay, we'll say, like, I was dealing with a client with sleep stuff last week, and so this person has been doing this. So their problem is drinking too much liquids late at night, and so it's forcing them to get up all the time in the middle of the night. So originally they were drinking all these fluids because they needed to stay hydrated, so that was a big thing for them. So now they've solved the old problem of being hydrated with this new solution, the newer solution of drinking like up until bedtime. Now the problem is they have a new problem. The new problem is they keep waking up in the middle of the night because they have to pee, right? So you can't look at that old solution, which is keep drinking up until you go to bed, to solve the new problem. Why? Because that old solution created the new problem. So you have to come up with a new solution for the new problem. And I think what a lot of us do is we look back into our old toolbox and we try to solve these problems with what we already have. Again, this is why it's funny, because I keep coming back to coaching, why coaching is important, because you have to have someone who has a robust tool belt. Like I think of Batman. Like Batman had the best tool belt ever. That guy had a tool for everything, right? And then I forgot his assistant's name, the two assistants' name, but the one guy kept creating these new crazy things for all the new problems that he anticipated Batman would have. So Batman never came into a problem without a tool belt solution. And so that's what I feel like, that's all I do. That's why I call it tools and tactics. I'm just literally having my clients get bigger tool belts. Because I don't want, and this is where I'll also put this out against coaching. If you're going to a coach and you're trying to solve the same problem you did 3, 5, 10 years ago, you need to fire that coach. I tell my clients, it's like, if we don't solve your problem and you're still talking about the same stuff with me in 3 years, fire me. Please fire me. Because I'm not doing any service.
Right.
Like, I've run out of tools.
And that's a powerful statement. And I guess your point is that, once people change their brain, they shouldn't need a coach the rest of their life. Is that what you're saying?
I mean, to solve that same problem.
I see. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Like, ideally, so I subscribe to cognitive behavioral therapy as a psychologist, and the whole point of cognitive CBT is to empower people to create the changes in their lives as they go forward. Or what we say is, like, give someone agency, right? Agency means like a representation of them for their lives. That's where the word agent comes from. You bring it down in the Latin, it means representative. So you need to represent your own life, take control of your own life, have agency. So no matter what problem you come up with, you're like, oh, I've already solved, the weight problem before. I can now solve this problem of sleep. I know what to do at least. I know where to look to start my journey. I don't have to sit there, by myself, lonely, and have no clue of what to do. And of course, we know where that leads. That leads to the people that Janet was talking about earlier. They're just depressed. They feel hopeless. They feel helpless. No, we got to empower our clients. And like I said, I use CBT because that's my background in psychology.
That's right. And that will be a good transition for our first commercial break. And as always, at Health Solutions with Shawn and Janet Needham, we like to educate and empower our consumers and listeners so they can take charge of their own health care. Here's our first commercial break. We'll be back in a few minutes. Hello and welcome back to the second segment of Health Solutions with Shawn and Janet Needham. If you missed the first segment, we have David Mykel on with us talking about psychology fitness. We had him on a few months ago and was so popular. Wanted to have him back. So David, are you still there?
I am, Shawn.
All right. So Janet, what more questions do you have for David?
So I wanted to move on a little bit to kind of a comment I've seen on your Facebook. And basically what you were talking about was it's okay for us to be selfish with our health. And I feel like many people put their health on the back burner. And it doesn't necessarily have to be, their food intake, their sleep, or whatever it is. I feel like as Americans and as a group that sometimes it's like overlooked. So am I catching on to something that you're trying to overcome with some of your clients?
Yes, some of my clients, my friends, myself. So health is typically something we do put on the back burner. It can become an afterthought when it comes to COVID time that's happening. There's the boundaries between work and home are completely blurred. So unless you have a very set schedule, you can sit here and I have many of my clients, including myself, are working 12, 14, 16-day hours because of these blurred lines. But what I like to think of is that, I talk about two different analogies for it. Either call it the cup analogy or the airplane mask analogy. But the baseline of both of them is you have to be selfish in order to be selfless. You have to be selfish in order to be selfless. If I have a cup, Janet, and I want to pour some water from your cup, from my cup into yours, I can't give you what I don't have. So if I haven't filled my cup up with patience, with gratitude, with clarity, with focus, I can't give you what I don't have. So if I'm not sleeping the amount that I need every night, I'm not going to be focused and clear and patient for you. If I'm not getting my workout in, my brain is not going to be activated at a certain level that I would expect it to be, so I can't help you. It's why they talk about airplane mask. You need to put your mask on first before you can help someone else. The same thing with even talking about CPR classes, doctors ABC. The D stands for danger, assess danger. First responder classes, same thing. If you run into a situation trying to help someone, because most of us have good hearts and we want to help people, but you don't take care of yourself first, you end up not only hurting them, but hurting you at the same time, and probably pushing yourself back further. So I tell people, I was like, everyone has this bad connotation of the word selfish, because, some people take it to the extreme. But if you're doing it in a way where, I want to serve at a high level every day. I want to serve my clients. I want to serve your audience at the highest level I can. I know personally I need to make sure I'm eating the right foods. I need to make sure I'm getting enough sleep. I need to make sure I'm hydrating enough. I need to make sure I'm moving enough. Otherwise, I'm not performing at a high level, and I'm actually doing a disservice to all those people around me and to my calling overall.
I totally agree with that. I think we kind of have that a little backwards in healthcare right now. I don't think we live the walk. We tell our clients, in 5 or 10 minutes, this is what you need to do, and the toolbox is empty. So I love what you have to say, because I think most of us can identify with, whether, I have to get this accomplished and this accomplished and this accomplished on your list, and you're at the bottom. But we need to reverse that to where, our health has to be at the top versus the bottom, and then everything else will come into line, and your job, your relationships, your self-image, all those things will come together, is kind of what I'm hearing in what you just said. Is that correct?
Yeah, and I even look at it like, I don't have children myself, but a lot of my clients do, and I look at it going, what are you telling your kids to do? You're putting your kids to bed at a certain time so they get enough sleep. You're trying to give them the healthiest foods. You're telling them to go play. You're telling them to go be with their friends and socialize. Are you doing those things? Like, you're trying to tell all these, because inherently these things are good. Socializing, going out, being with others and playing, eating well, sleeping well. But we don't do it for ourselves. Same thing, and I have some clients that are doctors too. Same thing with them. They're working these insane hours and telling their patients to sleep more. And I'm like, how are you telling them you're not sleeping as well? And listen, I'm a coach. I fall into it as well because I'm a business owner. There's some days that I'm not getting the optimal sleep that I need to get. I'm not getting the hard enough workout because I'm not making time for it. But when I step back and I realize, how can I serve at a higher level, the highest level that I want to serve at for what I'm called to do, there's no way that I can't do it without what I call the fundamentals. Eating, moving, sleeping, breathing. 4 fundamentals, 4 pillars. If you're not doing the eating, moving, sleeping, breathing properly all day, every day, you have no hope of serving at the highest level you can, and you're actually doing a disservice to all those around you that are calling on you. So you're actually being selfish in the wrong way. Because you're not even taking care of your own needs, which means you can't take care of someone else's. And there's the cup analogy again.
Well, that's the one thing. I appreciate that, David. Those are some great points. And I think when we, just like you said, if we really, you could say that not sleeping right, not eating right, not moving or exercising, and doing that right, you could say that is selfish, because in the end, you are hurting yourself and you're hurting others around you, because you are not going to perform at optimal potential in many different areas of your life, most areas of your life. And I know, having kids myself, and dealing with weight issues myself over 10 years ago, and being on and off with my weight for 15, 20 years before that, my kids were watching. And and it's amazing how impressionable they are. And I love to see families being active together. And it just makes my heart happy. And, my kids are 18 and 20 years old now, both boys. And for years, I haven't had to tell them to go to the gym or tell them to exercise or tell them how to eat, because they watched what I did. And I just think about how that wouldn't have happened when I was 60 pounds heavier and morbidly obese and having all kinds of, obesity-related issues going on with my body, as many Americans do. If I wouldn't have changed my habits, I have to wonder if my kids would have followed my patterns and been obese themselves. Do you have any comments on that?
Yeah, I mean, Shawn, you hit the nail perfectly on the head right there. And this is where the old adage, actions speak louder than words. You can tell your kids all day, every day to do this kind of stuff. They're just going to watch you, because here's the thing. They're watching you when you don't even know it. They're watching you in those micro moments. And the thing is, and this is where the psychology gets really interesting, is when you start doing some deep dives and with cognitive behavioral therapy and with clients, you start seeing how these little moments in life, this little time they saw Dad sneak into the kitchen at 1 o'clock in the morning and wolf down a bunch of ho-hos, that was something that they latched onto, and they created a story behind that. They created a story, and they gave a story meaning, and that meaning went on to affect the next 15 years of their lives. There's so much going on. I had one of my best friends, longtime friend, and a client of mine. We got him to lose 110 pounds. And I got another client who's on track to do the same. And the reason we had to play I call it the seven whys game. We have to keep getting why, down to the true why of why you want to do this. And my one client, my friend, was like, I don't want my 2 girls to grow up thinking that this is okay. It's okay to be this obese. It's okay not to have my college degree. And then one of my other clients, the same thing. I said, well, why do you want to lose all this weight? And when we got really down to it, he said, because I want to be around for my children. He has 2 young children. He wants to be around for them. Because he knew, being at the weight that he was basically just shaving years off of his life. And I was like, okay, that's a why. That gets you excited, to address kind of what Janet was saying earlier. When you have that level of why, and this is why I say you got to have someone, a professional, needs to help you with this, because a friend is not going to be able to get there with you. You have that level of why, you do screw your feelings, because you don't care how you feel. I don't feel like going to the gym today. I don't feel like eating healthy. I don't feel like getting to sleep. You know what I do feel like? I feel like being there for my kids. I feel like being around. I feel like showing up at the level I should be showing up. I'm getting passionate now. This is what gets me going right now, because I'm sick and tired of watching people make these decisions and operate from the wrong why. the why I should be doing this. No, you shouldn't be doing anything. Quit shoulding all over your life. I should do this, I should do this, I should do this. No. Get a real hardcore why that you really want to do this. And then build on that. Have that be your accountability. And sometimes you got to get in clients, you got to keep clients accountable for that. Like my one client this early this morning, it was accountability for his young son. I was like, do you want to be the kind of dad that your dad was, or do you want to be the dad that you know you can be? Boom. Mic drop. You don't need to say anything else to the client. The client's like, I'm in. I'm all in.
I think you bring up a huge, huge point, because so many times Shawn and I have heard this, whether it be at work or with friends or even on our program, that, you know, that accountability with your friend or your family member may not be there. So if that family member is bringing home the food that isn't healthy for you and is tempting you, that's something you're going to have to deal with, because that's a hard bond to have to break. So a coach is going to have to help you get through that, but that means you have to be honest about all the activities that are happening around that too, and how you are going to be able to handle those roadblocks. Wouldn't you say that's what you see sometimes with your clients?
Yeah, and that's why they need more tools. That's why I'm not with someone 24/7. We're not with someone 24/7. You are the only person that's with yourself 24/7. If you have a robust tool belt, no matter what thing comes up, you have a tool. You're like, oh, here's that tool for that. Oh, here's that tool for that. And Jen, you made a great comment about the accountability towards someone in your family. I mean, that can work up to a point, and I'm not saying that doesn't work, but there's another philosophy, and this is a philosophy in coaching, where people pay attention to what they pay for.
Right.
If you pay someone to keep you accountable and keep you motivated and keep you all this kind of stuff, you're going to be more invested in it. I've even had this conversation with my girlfriend. She's like, well, why am I not getting the results that I want? Because you're not listening to me. Well, why not? Because I said, honestly, because I'm your boyfriend, and you're like, you're not paying me. And she says, well, how do we solve that? I go, give me $1,000. She goes, that's insane. I go, but you're going to pay attention all of a sudden because you're paying me now for my advice. You will 100% do everything I tell you to do because you paid for it. You assigned a value to it. So it's assigning value to the coach, assigning value to the system that you're taking on, assigning value to the why you really want to do this.
Right.
And then,
yeah, go ahead, David.
Janet, you said it perfectly. Just to wrap that thought up is that you don't want to hurt someone else's feelings. If they're your partner, if they're your family, if they're your friends, it's another hurdle you have to clear for behavior change. That behavior change is hard enough. Take as many hurdles away as you can. So don't worry about, like, you're not going to piss a coach off. I tell my clients, I'm like, I want you to challenge me on everything. Challenge me on everything, because if you don't believe what I'm telling you, or you don't believe in me, this will never work.
That's right, and you know, I can tell you personally, I have a coach that helps me with my mountain bike racing, and one of the reasons I do pay for the coach is because he makes me accountable. I know that every Monday he looks at my workouts and sees how I did for the week and makes comments and suggestions and builds new workouts, and I don't really want to disappoint him. And I can tell you though, when I'm kind of on my own, and I've even mentioned this to my wife, I've said, hey, well, make sure let's go to the gym together, you know, tomorrow or whatever. I can tell you it's a lot easier to not be accountable to her than it is to my coach. And I don't know if it would work if I said that she had to pay me $1,000 to coach her. I don't think that would work.
I know.
Well, my girlfriend hasn't written the check yet, so I'm sure it's not working for us either. It was just one suggestion. I threw it out there to put some levity to the conversation.
Another thing I wanted to bring up, too, is you said something about, you know, to be a role model to your kids, the why. And if it is, I can tell you that one of the reasons I changed my habits is because my kids were getting a little bit older, and I knew that they were going to become teenagers, and I wanted to be able to enjoy my life with them. I wanted to be able to play baseball with them, to play football with them, to bike with them. Whatever sport they chose, I wanted to be able to do that with them. And, yeah, and I will tell you, you know, we had a caller on the show, or a guy on the show a couple weeks ago, a guest on the show a couple weeks ago, and he had weight loss surgery. And, you know, he obesity is serious. I mean, if he had congestive heart failure when he was 45 years old. So, yeah, I mean, you think about that. So people that are, morbidly obese, it can happen. You can have a heart attack in your 40s because that, or many other disease states. And it's, I'm glad that he's changing his life. And he went to the surgery a few days ago, and we're going to have him on our podcast later this week for our midweek podcast to follow up with him. And another thing I like what you said, David, is that it's not just about showing up. Oh, great. I showed up to watch my kids play baseball. Okay. Did you play baseball with your kids? Do you practice with your kids? You want to be in optimal health so you can. At least I'm speaking for myself, but it sounds like you have a lot of clients like that. It's not just about showing up and watching and eating food on the sidelines, watching your kids. You want to be active with them. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, I look at it like this. It's like, do you want to be an observer of your life, or do you want to participate in your life?
Well, that's an easy answer for me.
Yeah, like, I mean, Shawn, to your credit, that's the thing. Like, you got a why. You're like, I want to be able to do whatever sport my kids want to do. That's my why. That's why I get up in the mornings. That's why I go to work. That's why I put in the hard reps, the hours, the better diet, because that's your why. That's a strong why. Like, we're working on a new product right now for seniors, and one of the things that we came up with a why was, it's like, do you want to be at your grandchildren's wedding and sitting in the corner and having someone spoon feed you freaking food in a wheelchair, or do you? Oh, I'm getting emotional. I was like, or do you want to be on the dance floor dancing with your granddaughter? It's your frigging choice.
That's right. And
now.
That's right.
Right now.
So true. It does not have to end up that way. So let's hold that thought, David. No. We're going to go to our second commercial break, and we'll be back in a few minutes. Hello and welcome back to the final segment of Health Solutions with Shawn and Janet Needham, where you can find us every Monday streaming 1 to 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Next week, just to let you guys know, we will have a guest on, Amber Wentworth. She is big into the keto diet. She follows a lot of our keto stuff. And as you know, last week's guest, our biggest show ever with the Castros, how a little girl's life got changed, going from 25 seizures a day to seizure-free by going on the keto diet. So I'm going to be talking to Amber about the keto diet. And if you've missed that episode, go check us out on the podcast forums, iTunes, SoundCloud, all the podcast forums. Like it, share it, comment. We appreciate it. You have helped us, viewers and listeners. You have helped us with having over 60,000 impressions over the last few months. So we are super, super excited about that. And we thank you for that. So you're making this show bigger and better all the time. We really appreciate it. David, do we still have you on the line?
Yes, sir.
All right. So I am so glad that we had you back on the show, and I realized why we had you back on the show, because we could talk for hours, because you get passionate. Yeah, you get passionate just like I get passionate, and I love it. So let's talk about it. And people, you were kind of mentioning it a little bit, but people just think that aging is normal. And I'm not saying we can, there's an anti-aging formula, but that doesn't mean that we have to live in a wheelchair. That doesn't mean that we have to, be confined to a bed. I want to be playing football with my grandkids, maybe my great grandkids. Who knows? So tell us.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So this kind of goes like this. Maybe when Janet was asking the questions about coaching too, you have to have in your space, like in your life, you have to have what's possible there. So if you're surrounded by a bunch of people that are overweight, are, taking 5 pills a day, don't participate in sports, eat crappy food, are unhappy, complain all day, you are going to be that person. You're the average of the 5 people you hang out with the most. So if you don't have people in your space that allow for the possibility to be I'll be 42 this year. And like everyone looks at me, they're like, "There's no way, dude. We got you like 10 years younger." I'm like, no, but I'm 42. I've been super fit my whole life. It's not because of genetics. My genetics are terrible for that kind of stuff. It's because the other 2/3 of what I owned is working at it. So you have to be put in these spaces where you're around people who make it possible. Like, it's possible to be, 80 and playing football with your great-grandchildren. If you know someone like that, it's possible. Like, I have people in my life, I'm really blessed. Like, I got one of my movement mentors is 60, and he climbs as he literally climbs professional grade. He climbs like the same level as pros do at 60. One of my other mentors is 65, and she's doing HIIT classes. Like, like you need people that are in your space that create the possibility around that. Because if you don't see it, our brains don't work. Like, most of us, 70% of us are visual learners. So if we see something, we have a more chance of being able to understand that we can actually learn it and do it. But if you never see the possibility, particularly, it's got to be in your life, not through Instagram, not through social media. It needs to be more visceral. It needs to be actually in your life. So another thing to seek out, too, is it could be mentors as well. Like, I think everyone should have mentors, people that they look up to that are just further along in whatever that thing is. I have mentors in all sorts of different arenas because I want people that are smarter than me to pass down the knowledge, just like I want to do to my friends, my family, my clients. But yeah, it needs to be possible first to be probable. That'll be the tweetable bite.
There you go. Yeah, write that down, producer.
I totally agree with that. One of the things I think that you touched on is my uncle, who was in his 90s, had a girlfriend that was 93, and she would go to the nursing home to visit the old people, and that's what she believed, and she lived her life. What I'm hearing is that you surround yourself with people that make your lifestyle possible with the decisions that they help mentor you with, because you gravitate towards people who are motivating you to stay on course with that, or what you want. And I think Shawn and I have talked about this a little bit about being the proximity principle,
That's
like
right.
in Coleman, because whether you want to be a journalist someday, or whether you want to be a fitness coach, or whatever you're aspiring to, you look towards those people that achieve those things and you gravitate towards them.
Yeah, in Proximity Principle, Ken Coleman. If you guys haven't read that book, read it. Because if you want to be like somebody, or you want to be a mountain bike racer, or a fitness coach, or you want to be a broadcast journalist, then you hang around people like that. And we talk about it on this radio show all the time, Proximity Principle. And on the same subject, if you're trying to stop drinking, or drink less alcohol, or eat less, you know what? You better not be hanging around alcoholics. You better not be hanging around obese people that have eating problems, because it's just going to make it tougher. And I know this does not sound very nice, but it's not about being nice. It's about your health. And remember, if you don't have your health, you've got nothing. David already said it. I will reiterate it. If you've got your health, you've got nothing. And that includes wealth. Without health, you can't have wealth. And even if you do, for how long are you going to have it? So what are your thoughts, David?
Just one amen, Brother Shawn and Sister Janet. Like, yeah, if I love the fact you brought up the alcoholic one. And I'm not saying that you have to discard all of your friends right now because they're all unhealthy. I'm just saying maybe spend less time around them, because they have triggers. They're triggers for you. They're taking on triggers, and we only have a certain amount of willpower. Our willpower and our discipline is very, very finite until you hack the code of enlightenment. And most of us don't have that. So it's like, set yourself up for success. Hang around people that are going to the salad bar instead of going to McDonald's. You're going to eat more salads. Hang around people that are being more active, because you're going to be more active. Like, it's super simple. And the proximity principle, yeah, you're the average of the 5 people you hang out with the most. So it's like, hang out with better people. Like, give yourself the chance. And this is another tool and tactic. This is what I'm saying. You don't have to get, like, super nuanced for some of these tools. One of the tools could just be hanging out with more people that you admire. Find people that you admire and go after them. Like, one of the things that some people will go to coaches for, and I've had coaches, like, clients tell me this, is they're like, I want your body. That's why I want you as my coach. I'm like, sweet. Because why? Now I'm the representation of what they can accomplish, and I'm with them. I'm encouraging them. I'm giving them the tools that I use to get them there, and also keeping them accountable, keeping them motivated. It's a lot of this stuff. A lot of stuff is not really. It's not really hard. I should say it's simple, but it's hard. It's simple practices, but it's hard to keep these practices unless you're giving yourself this platform to build on, of being around the same people, listening to radio shows like this and getting information from people that work, like finding those that you admire and hanging out with them more often, hanging out with people that maybe have the habits that you don't like. If I can make one book recommendation quick, though, for you guys, if people are looking for longevity, it's called Ikigai, Ikigai. It's basically a study done of super centenarians. So these are people that are living to their 80s, 90s, 100s, and they're crushing it. And so Japan has 2 of these populations, ironically, in their blue zones. Like, blue zones are the places in the world people live the longest, right? And this is a very short book, but it will tell you there is a magic formula to live to 107 and be driving at 107. Like, these people have figured it out. And guess what? It's no surprise, guys. It's being around people. It's being active. It's eating the right foods. And I'm not saying being active, going to the gym 6 days a week for 2 hours a day. I'm saying go gardening, go walk, do something, move. Like, this book lays it out really, really well, and it's a great encyclopedia, I would say, even though it's so short, of all these little things that you can do. And it's like, okay, let's start with, it is possible. So many people in there are literally like 107, they're still driving.
Right. I think you touched on something that I've been probably preached at since I was a child. My parents would always say, go outside. And I think as human beings, we have a relationship with the outdoors, but we don't always access this. And I think a lot of those people are active, and they get out in the sun, and they get out and do their gardening, and they do activities outside.
All day. Yeah, every day. That's also one of the secret sauces, is that every day they're outside.
And they just get
in
just
some
get out.
way, shape, or form.
Yeah. Here's. Go ahead, David.
Oh, go ahead, John. No, I was saying that's it. Like, it's again, these tactics sometimes are not. They're simple. Get outside.
Right.
Oh my God.
And
just get outside. You'll feel better.
Right. And like you say, simple but hard. Because if not, we wouldn't have an obesity problem if it was easy. But one thing about being outside that my best friend and twin brother told me is that, when you're outside, you're not near food, so it's harder to eat.
Oh,
think about that. And he said, he says, well, so remember, Shawn, when we were growing up and we were outside the whole time, we weren't near the food pantry, so we couldn't eat. So, by the way, sitting in front of the TV or in front of a screen and playing video games all day isn't active. And I don't care if it's the Wii. If the Wii is not even popular anymore, I don't think. But because one of the problems is you're still inside the house where you have almost an unlimited food supply.
It's your proximity principle. How close are you to the pantry when you're inside and they're playing video games?
That's right.
Yeah, I love it. Like, I've actually never heard that one. Kudos to your brother, Shawn. That was brilliant. I've never heard that one, but it's totally true. Like, you again, this is where willpower comes in. You don't have to have any willpower when it's not near you. This is where I tell some people, I'm like, just don't bring that food in your house. Start there. Start your decision at the grocery store. And they're like, oh, but I want it sometimes. Okay, then make a trip to the grocery store that day and go get 1 bag of chips. Let's make it inconvenient too, by the way, and then you'll do it less as well.
Absolutely.
So,
right. And
yeah,
you wonder how many
solution.
Yeah, and you wonder how many times you wouldn't make that trip. I know I wouldn't. If it's not in my house.
Oh no.
But if it's in
I'm a lazy eater.
That's right. So am I. And that's why we just don't buy it. I know a guy that was a triathlete, and he was training for an Ironman. And what he would literally do is he would clean when he started training really seriously, he would clean his entire house out of all food. And he would go to the store once a day for the food that he was going to buy that day. And when it was gone, it was gone. And I got to tell you, I've never went that extreme, but I got to tell you, I could see myself having to do that because it's really hard for me to say no when that food is in my house.
Yeah, well, because you're relying on your willpower at that point. And willpower has been proven over and over and over again to be a finite resource. And I equate it to a cell phone battery. The later in the day it gets, the less willpower you have. That's why we make worse decisions the later it gets at night. This is no surprise. We eat worse. We treat other people worse. Like, we'll drink more, and we'll drink alcohol more. Like, you're not making good decisions. So it's like, take that out of the equation. I have 2 clients that are starting, not next week, the following week. I'm going to go raid their pantry. I already told them. I'm like, I'm going in your pantry. I'm taking all your stuff. And they're like, really? I said, yeah, because you guys can't be trusted. And they're like, cool, we're in.
Right.
I have another client. Yeah, I have another client. I did it right now, actually. I told him this last week, and I just checked in with him today. He a problem with his scale, because scale is a measurement, right? But it's an inaccurate measurement, right? Muscle weighs more than fat,
Right.
body composition, all these different things. I said, stop getting on your scale. He's like, I've been doing this. He's like, I'm on my scale twice a day. I've been on my scale twice a day for 10 years. Cool. What you're going to do, I was like, do you have storage? Yes. I was like, do you have a box? Do you have a lock box? Yes. Get your scale, put it in storage, lock it in the box. I was like, you make it so difficult for you to go after that scale that I talked to him today, so this is 4 days since I talked to him last. He hasn't touched the scale once.
That's awesome.
And he's like, you don't know how hard it is, but he's like, it's so hard. He's like, I'm not going to go to my storage unit to go get it. I said, perfect.
That's right.
There you go. There's your tool.
We have to go to extremes like that. David, unfortunately, we have to wrap things up. We got 15 seconds or so, so I'm going to wrap it up. And I appreciate you being on. Man, we got to have you on again because this is some really, really powerful stuff. We appreciate you being on the show, and we will be in touch.
Yes, thank you guys. I really appreciate it. Love what you guys are doing. Keep up the great work.